Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Hunter, I've questioned a witness or two before, but I've never done one behind me, so I'm going to try to do this efficiently. First of all, I want to say thank you for filing HB4. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to joint author HB4. I want to talk about for a minute, because when we had these field hearings, there were questions of why are we here and why are we doing this? And you touched on that we're here because our governor issued a proclamation for us to go into special session, and one of those items was legislation that provides a revised congressional redistricting plan in light of constitutional concerns raised by the U.S. Department of Justice. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right. And in short, and you've touched on it, there was...
Well, let me clarify that.
All right.
And then anybody can question me about it. I don't know if it was caused by the Department of Justice. I keep hearing that. I keep hearing about a letter. All I know is we're here by a proclamation of the governor. Now, what the letter has to do with it, I got no personal knowledge. I have no knowledge. And I will tell you, I don't know what that has to do with this. That wasn't part of me. All I know is we had a special session call, and this was a topic, and I agreed by the request of the chairman to file this bill.
Great. And so, based on what you just said, in summary, in light of the governor's call, and I think you've already stated, based on statutory and constitutional authority, do you agree that the legislature and this committee have the absolute right and authority to consider congressional redistricting at this time?
Absolutely, and as I said, there's no requirement that you have to do it at a certain time. In fact, if you look historically, members, it's not always been at a certain time. The problem that we have is some people like it and some people don't. And that's the nature of redistricting.
All right. And I want to talk about the legal side of this for a second and talk about the analysis and address it from that standpoint. And you are an attorney, correct?
Now let's get this clarified for the number one. I have experience in the process. You even heard the lady that said I had blonde hair when I first started this process. I understand the process and I understand the general elements and I understand some of the case law. I am not an expert on redistricting law, but I think this hearing has probably provided an annuity plan to a bunch of law firms across the nation. And I'm going to just tell you, I'm not an expert on redistricting law, but I'm going to believe people sitting at this dais are probably being communicated with by hourly rate lawyers, and my phone is turned off.
And that's fair enough. I want to talk about that Fifth Circuit case that you referenced and referred to as the Petaway versus Galveston County case. We'll call it the Petaway case, which was ironically, the ruling came down, I don't know if you recall or know, was 1 year ago today when the Fifth Circuit issued that opinion. Were you aware of that?
I have a copy before me, and it says August 1st, 2024.
There we go. So in that case, in the Petaway case, is it your understanding that the Fifth Circuit held that coalition claims, and we've talked about, and you've already described what coalition districts are, but coalition claims do not comport with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Is that correct?
In fact, reading the case so everybody hears, it says we conclude that coalition claims do not comport with Section 2's statutory language or with Supreme Court cases interpreting Section 2.
Okay. And there are several, and I think you've already testified to this as well, there are several districts in the current map, not under HB4, but the current map that was for congressional redistricting that was adopted in 2021 that actually contain coalition districts that were created in that process, correct?
The law was different then.
Exactly. And those maps were created in 2021 when we did redistricting. I say we, you led the charge and did redistricting in 21 because you were the chair of redistricting committee, and I haven't checked, but I'm assuming that you're the one that carried the bill.
Well, I just want to remind a lot of the people on this dais, 21, that I got a pretty good memory. And I remember the vote in 2021, and I remember who came in and agreed with the amendments in 2021. So when I hear 2021 map was faulty, why did I accept those amendments and agreements from both parties to put in 2021? So we're going to be transparent. Make sure that you tell everybody you didn't ask for something to be put in the 2021 maps. But you had coalition districts being interpreted differently in 2021. Today, you have a 2024 Fifth Circuit case absolutely changing the law.
And in fact, great point. And in fact, at that time, the Fifth Circuit in Texas was controlled by the previous Fifth Circuit opinion of Campos v. City of Baytown, which was a 1988 case decided 37 years ago that said that these, what was the holding, said that district minority groups may aggregate their populations for purposes of vote dilution claims under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And so here, the law that you and everyone else in the legislature and through this process that relied upon in 2021 when the current maps were drafted is different than the law now as it relates to coalition districts.
And relates to coalition, correct.
Correct. And so at the time when the 2021 Texas congressional map was drawn, did you believe that that map was at that time legal and complied with current federal law or with federal law as it existed in 2021?
The answer is yes, we're under that plan. People sued, but nobody has thrown the plan out. It's pending in a federal jurisdiction. So when people say they're errors, that hasn't been determined. The laws changed, populations changed, trends have changed. So I think we're drawing conclusions that haven't occurred, but coalition districts were defined and legally looked at differently 3 years before that decision.
And that was your opinion then, and is your opinion the Petaway case came down, and that law says, I mean, that ruling says that that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act does not authorize separately protected minority groups to aggregate their populations for purposes of a vote dilution claim, correct?
Correct.
All right. And so, in fact, the opinion in the Petaway case says several times that minority vote dilution coalitions are impermissible. So, it overruled, and specifically, is it your recollection that the Petaway case overruled that Campos case that we previously referred to?
That
That
is
was the
correct.
1988
That
case.
is correct.
Okay. So the law changed, and to your knowledge, in simple terms, was the Petaway case, to your knowledge, was it ever appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court?
In connection to where it is in the process, I don't know. I know the Fifth Circuit ruled, but I do not know the legal process on where it stays today.
To your knowledge, so far as you know, the Supreme Court has not considered.
Right now, Fifth Circuit case is what we're acting under.
Right. And to your knowledge, because we're governed in Texas by what the Fifth Circuit, it covers the state of Texas. We're governed by Fifth Circuit opinions unless and to the extent that they're overruled or modified by the U.S. Supreme Court. Is that a fair general statement?
Correct.
Okay. And is it your understanding that the U.S. Supreme Court, although given the opportunity at least on 2 occasions, has refused to weigh into the issue that is a subject of the Pettaway case?
That I'm not
Okay.
aware of. I'm not aware of.
All right. So, but the significance of this is Pettaway is now the law of the land in Texas and was not the law in 2021.
Correct.
All right. So I want to talk, you mentioned before about partisan performance and how HB4 is drafted in that manner. Is it fair to say that the map in HB4 is based on political performance or partisan performance?
The answer is yes, and I want everybody to know that. It being transparent, that is correct. And it's based on Rucho, a United States Supreme Court case.
So legally, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you doing what you've done in HB4.
Absolutely not, and I'm going to elaborate because I want everybody to know this. If you read the Rucho case, they give 2 examples. A Republican group tried to redistrict to their favor. And then a Democrat group in a different jurisdiction tried to redistrict to their favor. Both using political partisanship. What was the ruling of the U.S. Supreme Court? The Supreme Court does not involve itself in that political gerrymandering, political partisanship, and that is not prevented by the U.S. Supreme Court.
And that's currently the law in the United States.
Yes.
All right. And we also know that some other states have taken advantage of that. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know about taking advantage. If are people doing it, or groups doing it, or states, they're following Rucho and following partisanship and political preference, yes.
When I meant taking advantage, I mean taking advantage of the opportunity to follow the law and do that. And for example, are you aware, for example, I'll give a couple of examples. Are you aware that, for example, the state of California is 62% Democrat? Their congressional delegation in D.C. is 43 Democrats and only 9 Republicans, giving them an 82% advantage, and yet they only have a 62% advantage in the state.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the
Are you aware of the state of New York, which is 58% Democrat? Their congressional delegation is 19 Democrats, 7 Republicans, and they have a 73% advantage.
Not aware.
And likewise, in the state of Illinois, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, they're 56% Democrat. Their numbers are 14 Republicans and only 3 Democrat seats, giving them an 82% advantage.
Not aware.
All right. You may be aware, though, that Texas currently is 58% Republican. Their seats are 25 currently, 25 Republican, 13 Democrat, although one of those Democrat seats is vacant, and which only gives Texas a 65% advantage.
I'll follow your math.
All right, you don't dispute it anyway. But as you mentioned, HB4 creates a total of 5 districts that it's not guaranteed that they would be Republican, but they would have a better chance of electing Republicans than they did before.
That is correct.
Okay. And it's crafted, as you said, for the purposes of partisan performance, and you've already said there's nothing illegal about that. Is there anything wrong with doing that?
There is nothing wrong with doing it, and I want everybody to understand, different from everybody else, I'm telling you, I'm not beating around the bush. I'm telling you that we have 5 new districts, and these 5 new districts are based on political performance, and we look at part of it on Rucho.
And Chairman Hunter, is it fair to say that the majority of Texans would rather see more Republican congressional districts?
Let's just put it this way. I can say the Republicans absolutely agree with that. And if I can't tell you on majority or percentages, but if you're the party, as Rucho says, and you have that position? Certainly you are. And you'll base it on political performance, percentage, and whatever your party makeup is, they should be supporting that.
Well, I'm going to ask you, my district, House District 68, is 88% Republican. I don't want you to speculate. I don't want you to go too far out on a limb here, but would you assume that my district might support your map?
Well, I do not speak for anybody but Todd Hunter. I support this. I'm going to be open to everybody, whether they like or dislike. But you would have to be the one talking on behalf of your district. But if you're trying to give me a softball, I bet your district supports this bill.
Right, right. I think you're right. Let's talk for a second about, and I know we've got a lot of time and I want to move through it, but we had a hearing in Harris County in Houston, and I want to talk to you about the districts that are affected in Harris County. And we heard some testimony on those last Saturday. First of all, we need to define a couple of terms. In redistricting, in that process, you're familiar with the term CVAP, which my understanding is stands for Citizen Voting Age Population. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And you looked at that, and also we sometimes hear the word VAP, which is referring to voting age population.
That's correct.
Similar. All right. So let's talk about District 18 in Harris County, what is referred to as the Barbara Jordan District. Is it your understanding that District 18 was, or it currently is, a coalition district?
Let me pull up some of the information that I have so I can give you what I have. I am not going to be able to tell you that I personally know it was
Okay.
a coalition
Okay.
type district, but I can tell you that under this plan that it becomes a real performing black CVAP district.
Right, and I would submit to you that it is currently a coalition district. Under HB 4, it would not be. The coalition districts are the type that are addressed in the Petaway case, and so I would submit to you that it goes from a coalition district to a majority black CVAP district, being 50.81% black.
That is correct.
Okay, and previously, kind of redundant, but blacks did not have a majority in that district, and now they do under your plan. Is that correct?
Again, previously, I can't recall, but the 50.81% is the data given to me that CD 18 is now a black CVAP, Citizen Voting Age Population district.
Okay. And is it also fair to say that we heard testimony about being compact and how some of these districts look, we talked about gerrymanders, how they look like a salamander, how they look bizarre, and they wrapped around folks. And was there a conscious effort in your drafting of not just District 18, but in the drafting that went into this for the districts throughout the state to be more compact and more representative of a particular community?
Let's get this clarified, because we sometimes use the words packing and cracking, and they're sometimes used. Compact is different. Compact is more of the reconfiguration of the district. And so we did hear through the hearings that people were bothered that certain went too long when they should be more concentrated. So we did try to use an effort to look at the compactness of the congressional.
And I think we even heard testimony from one engineer that maybe said he would desire if they're all in a hexagon shape or something, but the idea is that they would be more cohesive than they were before.
That's correct.
All right. And certainly, do you think District 18 under HB 4 meets that criteria and attempts to do that?
It does, and 18 does have a history, and that does have different patterns throughout history. If you look at the original, I think in the 70s, to this, it's kind of changed back to the history, but it is probably a bit more compact, and the percentage for black CVAP is better.
All right. Let's talk about District 9. My understanding is District 9 was also a coalition district, and under HB 4 changes from a coalition district to a majority Hispanic CVAP district. You know whether that's correct or not?
Well, what we're doing, it moves District 9 is basically in 2021, the Hispanic CVAP was 25.73. The black CVAP was 45.06. In this proposal, the Hispanic CVAP is 50.41.
Okay. All right. So previously, Hispanics did not hold a majority in that district, and under this scenario, under HB 4, they now do, correct?
Well, according to the CVAP.
Right.
According to the CVAP.
All right. Let's talk about District 29. Under HB 4, I think it went from a majority Hispanic CVAP to a majority Hispanic VAP district. I don't know if you know that, if that's correct. I would purport to you that it is now a 55% Hispanic district and should overwhelmingly perform Democrat. Is there a fair statement?
In connection with 29, under this plan, it becomes more heavily Democrat. I think the calculation's plus 70%. It moves from a Hispanic majority CVAP district to what they call a non-Hispanic majority CVAP district. For example, in 29, the black CVAP goes from 18.31% in 2021 to 32.79% under this proposal.
All right. Lastly, I want to talk about District 7. We heard some testimony in two different places, about at least two, if not three, talking about District 7 and how it was very diverse, and it was basically a predominantly white district, but under HB 4, it remains a predominantly white district, but it is still a Democrat performing district. Would you characterize it that way?
The calculation that I have on District 7 is what you asked?
Yes.
Is that under this plan, it becomes more Democrat.
Okay.
And the racial factors are basically the same.
Okay. All right. You've talked about overall statewide, the gain in CVAP black districts, the gain in CVAP Hispanic districts from what, under your HB 4, from what it is currently. And we've also talked about the appearance of districts. I want to talk for a second, and I am winding up here. I want to speak to Republican concerns about this process for a minute. And there's been, I don't know if you've heard discussion, speculation that somehow or other, if we take up redistricting at this time, then the Republican majorities in existing Republican districts are somehow going to be significantly reduced, such that the margins would be very slim. Have you heard that?
I've heard that slightly. Look, nobody knows the result of an election until you have the election. So do you show voting trends that under the 5 new seats prefer partisan Republican? The answer is yes. But you got to go vote.
Right.
And I don't think you're reducing, but I think folks have to engage and vote in these districts.
And on those 5 new seats that you're talking about, in your opinion, do the Republican districts surrounding those 5 seats, do they still continue to be Republican performing districts?
The answer is yes.
All right. And isn't it true, if you know, that 25, the current Republican seats that are 25, that the average partisan loss on those remaining on all those seats is only about a 1.5% difference, or less Republican than they currently are now. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware.
Okay. So you wouldn't know that of the other two, the two lowest performing were 55%, 57%, but all the other 23 range from anywhere from 61% to 78%, which still provides a strong Republican performing districts.
And that makes sense.
And again, there's nothing wrong with that.
Correct. Under the cases that you've referred.
Correct. So in summary, is it your testimony here today that you believe that the map created under HB 4 is in compliance with the Pettaway case and compliance with existing federal law?
Yes.
All right. And do you believe that HB 4 is a congressional map that the majority of Texans would approve and desire?
I think they will approve, yes.
Okay. And do you believe that HB 4 is a congressional map that supports the majority of Texans that voted for President Trump's agenda for Texas and our nation?
Now, that I don't know, because I'd have to go ask everybody.
Right.
But I think the political trend, the answer would be yes.
All right. And I would agree with you. I just want to, in closing, I just want to say I want to thank you for the work that you've done, the study and the expertise that you bring to this process. And I think the state of Texas owes you, Chair Vasud, and Speaker Burrows a debt of gratitude for the excellent work that you've done. So thank you for answering my questions.
I think, as in redistricting, people may disagree with you, but we appreciate what you say, Mr. Spiller.
We'll see. Thank you.
Member